Crimson Trace announces Laser Guard Pro for today's most popular concealed carry firearms, combining a red or green laser sight with 150 lumen light, taking personal defense to the next level. Available now at your local dealer.
Welcome to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, where there's more to talk about than shooting. There's reloading and hunting and self-defense, too.
All right, welcome back to Gun Talk. Tom Gresham here. If you'd like to join us, well, that part is easy. Just give me a holler. 866-TALK-GUN or just dial Tom, Talk, Gun. Well, Tom, that's me. And Talk Guns, that's what we do here. Let's see. Ooh, wow. This year we'll go 24 years on the air. You know, and I was mentioning we're 25 years into the gun ban movement since the passage of the Clinton gun ban, also known as the so-called assault weapons ban of 1994, where I caught CNN making up quotes, faking the footage, of course. Every time they talked about semi-automatic, they showed video of full automatic guns, therefore confusing the public, which was the whole idea. Even today, honestly, if you talk to people that are not really gun people and you ask them what's the assault weapon that's was covered by that ban, they'll say machine guns. The propaganda was effective. The misinformation was effective, and it continues to be. One of the people who's at the forefront of gun laws and Second Amendment rights fights is California attorney, Second Amendment specialist, Chuck Michel. He joins us right now. Chuck, thank you for joining us, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been talking a good bit today about kind of where we are and how we have moved, how this whole fight has changed in the last 25 years. It used to be that the action was pretty much about a gun or some guns. And I mean, I remember when they wanted to ban all handguns. And then they said, well, some guns are too small. They call them Saturday night specials. And some guns are too big. We call those sniper rifles. And some guns are too ugly. We call those assault weapons. And, it's always a targeting of guns. But now I would offer, and I'd love to get your take on it, a wholesale assault on gun culture, or frankly, just entirely on gun ownership. You're out there where you're seeing the worst of the worst all the time. What do you think?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I call that Goldilocks gun control, what they used to do. This gun's too big. This gun's too small. This gun's the wrong color. No gun is ever just right. That's Goldilocks gun control. And California is still doing that, and many other venues where they're pushing what is really civilian disarmament, and that's not hyperbole. That is, that's not. It amazes me that some folks think that that all this talk about civilian disarmament and the agenda of some of the folks who don't want people to be able to choose to own a gun to defend themselves or their family is really to get as close to civilian disarmament as they can. Well, they've gone about as far as they can in California, at least, with specific hardcore laws. They're regulating everything out here. Most recently, they've launched an effort to regulate ammunition and make it difficult to buy that. We're fighting and pushing that in the courts, along with probably a dozen other lawsuits challenging all those laws. But with Newsom coming into office, there's sort of a new, they're more willing to admit a new sort of a slant on this agenda. We had that a couple of years ago. We got a copy of that leaked playbook, the PR playbook for the gun ban lobby, which did effective messaging through a campaign or whatever it was called. It was basically telling them all, look, we know we want to ban guns, but don't say that out there. And here's what you need to be saying, and coaching them on how to be careful about what they said, right? Right. Always talk about gun safety. Always pay lip service to the Second Amendment. Oh, we respect the Second Amendment, but never call a gun. Never overtly attack the Second Amendment, but do attack the leadership of the NRA.
Right.
Paint the NRA as an extremist, the leadership as an extremist group that's beholden to the the gun industry, which is such a joke. Anybody who's ever been to a NRA board meeting knows that the industry and the NRA do not always see eye to eye.
No, not at all.
To suggest that the industry controls the NRA. Of course, the guys that run the gun industry are the most closest to this agenda. They see that the agenda really is about civilian disarmament, so they want to help fight back. But really now out in California, the point of all this is, at least out here, Gavin Newsom is on the record saying now we have to eliminate the gun culture. In other words, they want to take the fun out of guns. They want to take the joy out of shooting. They want to make it as difficult, if not impossible, as they can for anyone to go to the range or buy a gun or have fun shooting one. Never mind self-defense. They just don't want anyone to be able to understand and experience the joy of shooting, because they know that if they close down the ranges and they put them too far away from you, they put so much red tape in between you and actually bringing home a firearm or God forbid, getting a license to carry one in public, they know that a certain percentage of the population will give up. Which is why it's always interesting to me. There's kind of a conflict between liking these first-person shooter games like Call of Duty, because that's become the cultural introduction to firearms for the new generation.
Sure. There's something else going on here, Chuck, and it's part of what you're talking about, which is, yes, they make it more difficult to buy a gun, and yes, they make it more difficult to buy ammunition. They make it more expensive, and they reduce the number of handguns that are available for sale in California through the roster, and on and on. But part of their whole, we have to essentially destroy the gun culture, is the demonization of gun ownership and of gun owners. And it goes back to what you said before. In their playbook, they said, well, we have to assign to the leaders of the NRA words like terrorist and racist and all that. And now that's filtered away from just the LaPierres of the world to every gun owner, where if you are a gun owner, we're going to paint you with that broad brush of being a racist or being a terrorist or being a murderer or being, at the very least, someone who simply doesn't care about the criminal misuse of guns.
You're absolutely right. I call that the campaign of shame. It's the guilt trip that they want to lay on anybody who even thinks about owning a gun, even though it's the most effective tool that there is to defend your family, even though guns save lives, even though gun laws don't solve crime, don't reduce violent crime, even though bad guys can get guns no matter what law you pass. They now are turning gun owners into demonizing gun owners, making them feel bad about making the choice to own a firearm.
All right, hold that thought, because I want to come back to it, because one of the outgrowths of that, we'll talk about this after the break, is what has happened with people's willingness in certain areas, New York, the Northeast, and now in California, to actually admit, if you will use that word, that they are actually gun owners. We're talking with Chuck Michel. He is one of the top attorneys for gun rights out in California and doing a lot of work on the national level as well. 866-TALK-GUN. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
Laser sights increase confidence, regardless of experience level. Whether you're learning the fundamentals, a seasoned shooter, or simply overcoming aging eyes, laser sights provide instant feedback, providing immediate confidence and enjoyment for a new shooter. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com for a free copy of our laser training video, The Laser's Edge, and learn more about why Crimson Trace is making laser sights standard equipment.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
For legendary Mossberg reliability in a compact package without the requirement of NFA paperwork, look for the Mossberg 590 Shockwave. Now available in both 12 and 20 gauge. These pump-action firearms feature a 14-inch barrel, a bird's head pistol grip, and a length just over 26 inches. Check out the Shockwaves at Mossberg.com. Mossberg. American built, American strong. Arm yourself with Mossberg.
Things are changing on the gun control, gun ban front. We just had senators led by Dianne Feinstein. Let's introduce the assault weapon ban of 2019. Let's see, military style, quote, military style assault weapons, I love the military style, assault rifles are the weapons of choice for mass murders. Not true. There's just no reason why these guns, which were designed to kill as many people as quickly as possible, are sold to the public, said Senator Chris Murphy. Quote, assault weapons and high-capacity magazines are deadly and dangerous weapons of war that belong on the battlefield, not on our streets. They have no purpose for self-defense or hunting, and no business being in our schools, churches, and malls, except that, of course, millions of people own them for hunting and for self-defense and for recreation. And yes, they have been used to save a lot of lives. We're talking with Chuck Michel, key attorney, leader on the Second Amendment front. And I don't know how many cases you have going these days, Chuck. I'm not even sure you know how many cases you have going.
Oh, we have dozens. Some high profile, and others that are just sort of routine. You know, the sexy stuff is the assault weapon challenges and the challenge to the ban on the possession of standard capacity magazines. Some of the challenges we have going to the ammo laws, but the thing that people suffer from day in and day out, not being able to get a permit to carry a firearm in public, or losing their right to own a firearm because of something that happened with their ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, all these kinds of less dramatic things, getting their guns back when they're seized for some temporary reason. I mean, those are the kind of day-to-day things that we're dealing with every day, and we're up against institutional resistance from the California Department of Justice Firearms Bureau and often from the ATF. Where we have to fight those every day too. They don't make the headlines. They're not a good fundraising vehicle necessarily, but and they're not sexy to the membership, to gun owners. But that's the day-to-day kind of grind work that a Second Amendment lawyer really needs to do. And
if you're not doing that, if you're not fighting that battle, then the institutions will keep doing what they're doing, and then incrementally it'll get worse and worse.
Right, because keeping guns, the police departments, especially the politicized police departments like the LAPD, seizing guns for flimsy reasons and then not giving them back, it's become routine. I mean, we're dealing with that up in San Jose right now. We're dealing with it in Los Angeles. It's just, that's the kind of day-to-day thing. But, you know, what's going on out here really, I hope that through your show we can get this out to the rest of the country. There are still people out there in places that aren't quite under siege as badly as California is, there's folks who think that this is like a fundraising ruse from the NRA or some of these other groups to try and scare people into giving money. Folks, it is real. It is real. There is a big percentage of cultural engineers financed by the billionaires like Bloomberg and Soros who want to change America. There's a war going on for America's soul, for the future of American freedom. And the Second Amendment is at the tip of freedom's spear. And if the folks out there, the best advice I can give to anybody listening in Texas or any state where God love you still have politicians who aren't trying to take away your Second Amendment rights is if they try, you better stop it before it gets any momentum. And I'm talking to states like Nevada right now where they've had some changes in their legislature where this is the kind of stuff that's going to pop up on the agenda. If you get it as far along as California is, it becomes more and more difficult. People in California, Second Amendment advocates and believers in California, a lot of them has left the state. And it's really difficult now to get people to engage out here, to get gun owners to understand what they're up against, because, in part, that campaign of shame has succeeded.
Well, I was going to say, that was kind of my lead into this, is I was talking to a producer at MSNBC. He came out and did some stuff with us some years ago, and he made a comment. He says, I don't know anybody who owns a gun. And I said, of course you do. He says, no, I don't. I live in New York. I said, you know a lot of people who own guns. He said, no. I said, well, I'll tell you what, check it out, Keith. He called me 2 weeks later. He says, Tom, I'm amazed. When I started asking, he said, almost half the people I talk to own a gun, and I never knew it. I said, that's because they feel ashamed or they have been shamed, and they won't admit it. Here, where I live, when you're talking to your doctor or your lawyer or the guy at the butcher shop or any other place, we're talking about hunting, we're talking about guns. You are afraid, people around you are afraid to mention it because of the shame campaign that's going on. And, of course, it's happening in California. And that's exactly what you've been talking about, Chuck. Yes.
People are. That's why all these polls are always wrong. But yeah, and I don't know what to do. I mean, CRP, as the voluntary president of CRPA and as a lawyer for NRA and gun owners, I work every day with folks trying to, on social media and email campaigns and advertising and all the publications, to make people aware. Because, like in most areas in politics, there's an engaged segment on the left and on the right, and then there's all those folks in the middle, and there's a lot of gun owners in the middle.
Yes.
But unless they understand what's really, the reality is a lot of people, once they've gone out and bought that gun and put it in there, hopefully in a locked container, depending on their personal circumstances, but in their bedside table, they feel that they have a degree of security to protect themselves against the bad guy. And a lot of people kind of get lulled to sleep after that.
Sure, they disengage.
Yep.
And one of the things I want to mention here is that the laws that people have heard about that have been enacted in California or in New York, they may not be aware of it, but in every single state in the country, that law is being introduced into the legislature right now. There is someone introducing a red flag law in every state. There's someone introducing an ammo ban or ammo restrictions or ammo taxes in every state. It's happening in every state right now while we're talking about it. And people say, well, it won't pass here. Well, maybe not this year, and maybe not next year, but they keep coming back and keep coming back. And after a while, and maybe you can talk about this, Chuck, it becomes a normalization process where people are so used to hearing them talking about a red flag law or a gun ammo tax, and they think, well, we're not going to do that. But 10 years later, they said, well, I've been hearing about that everywhere. Maybe it's time for us to do that. And that's how that stuff happens.
That's part of that messaging campaign. And folks should be aware, basically the law firm for the gun ban lobby is in San Francisco. It's gone through a couple of name changes, but it's now the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. They have a bunch of lawyers that work full-time for that nonprofit, and then a lot of other lawyers at very prestigious law firms who give pro bono hours to them. This is a big problem we're also trying to get people aware of. If you have a business and you're hiring some of these firms that subsidize their pro bono efforts through your legal fees, you should think twice about whether or not you want to use some of these firms. But that's what's going on. And they pushed it. It's not like somebody from another state sees this law in California and says, oh, maybe that's a good idea here. These folks are pushing the agenda from California to every other state and federally.
They have lobbyists in every state, and they are going and finding the right legislator who will introduce this bill over and over and over again every year. And, at first everybody's shrugging and going, that's just stupid. That's not going to happen in Texas. Or that's, and then the next year it gets a little closer. And then after a while, you're actually engaged in a fight when you could have stopped it earlier, but you got to be involved. Well, part of it, Chuck, you got to know about it. And the only way, I keep telling people, the only way you know about it is to be an active part of your state gun rights group. You're the president of the California Rifle and Pistol Association. If you're in another state, you got to belong to your state gun rights group. Otherwise, you won't even know what's going on.
That's right. Information, being plugged in. Information is power. And volunteers are the most powerful weapon that any state association or any association has. So you have to be plugged in. You have to know what's going on. Then you'll begin to appreciate the people think we're exaggerating about the coordination behind the effort and what they're really trying to do. And when you start seeing it, every day, you start to realize this really is part of this progressive, or whatever you want to call it, cultural change movement that I don't know where it's going, some kind of naively idealistic social utopia where, sloth is rewarded with entitlements or something. I don't get it, but, that's my age. But also partly my wisdom.
But it is an absolute assault on the culture of firearms ownership. They want to, and most of them have kind of given up on the whole, well, we don't really want to take, no one wants to take your guns away. Now they say, well, yeah, actually we do. We're not going to take them all at once. But we're going to get them all. Chuck, listen, I'm about out of time here. Tell them just a little bit about CRPA and any other thing that, way that people can find out what you've been doing and what's going on out there.
Well, jump on crpa.org and follow us on Facebook for the California Rifle and Pistol Association. Stay plugged in. You'll get information not just about California, but nationally. And also NRA has a Stand and Fight California webpage that's great to be plugged into there, too.
Perfect. Chuck Michel, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
All right, you take care. It is a continuous battle. We've been doing it for more than 50 years. We'll be doing it for another 50 years. That is, if we don't lose it all. And the only way we lose it is if you don't get involved. You got to get engaged. You got to be informed. You got to be there. Are you a member of your state organization? 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
I heard the click, click, click of her stiletto heels coming down the hall. And I caught her perfume before she opened the door to my office. And she stood there looking like $1,000,000 tax-free. I want to talk to you, she said. Come back later, I said. I'm listening to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk right now.
All right, back with you. I get this note. Actually, it's off of our Facebook page, a note. By the way, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to like us, follow us, the Facebook page for Gun Talk Media. And, of course, you should be following me on Twitter. I am at Gun Talk over there, where I'm always putting out information, just tons of links to articles that are important, whether it's a self-defense gun use or the nonsense that unfortunately, the Democrat Party seems to be just purely the party of gun bans. This one comes from David. It says, Tom, regarding cooking the books, I was talking about the CDC now including war deaths in their gun death list, thus inflating the numbers. Regarding cooking the books, I've seen it all before. In Pennsylvania, during their annual anti-hunting screeds, after firearm training began to have a positive impact on mistaken for game incidents, I witnessed the local media start listing heart attacks, motor vehicle accidents on the way to hunting areas, and similar issues as reasons to ban hunting. They had to elevate their numbers as a way to frighten the public. They said, well, this is a hunting accident. This is a hunting death. Guy had a heart attack while he was hunting. Yeah, right. Oh, God. By the way, in this latest so-called assault weapons ban bill that was introduced by Feinstein, listen to this now, bans any assault weapon that accepts a detachable ammunition magazine and has one or more of the military characteristics, including pistol grip, forward grip, barrel shroud, a threaded barrel, or a folding or telescoping stock. Detachable box magazine and a threaded barrel. A detachable box magazine and a threaded barrel, like so many bolt-action rifles, whether they be hunting rifles or long-range competition rifles. If it has a detachable box magazine and a threaded barrel, it would be banned. Yeah, we don't want to take away all your guns yet, because we don't think we can get them all yet. Line 3, Ray's with us in the Bronx, New York. Ray, thank you for your patience. How are you?
Oh, fine. You know, Tom, I was listening to Chuck, and I just love listening to Chuck. I'll tell you that right now. I was thinking about it's really time, as Dalton would say, not to be nice anymore as far as these people are concerned, you know, the antis.
Mm-hmm.
We had an opportunity, Tom, that disappointed me. I was watching Dana Lash's show. She was talking at one time to Representative Hudson, who was definitely one of our people, mm-hmm. and Jim Jordan, who was definitely very conservative and somebody we can count on. And yet, in the last session, all they had to do was say, okay, we're going to cave and going to give you the prison reform bill that you want, but the rider on the bill is going to be the national reciprocity. Now, either that would have killed prison reform, or because they were so desperate to pass the prison reform bill, they would have had to swallow the poison pill of national reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like that's the only way we're going to win, is basically attaching reciprocity to bills they're dying and desperate to pass.
I don't know, and I've had this thought a lot, and it's disturbing to me. I don't know if the Republicans know how to win. I don't know if they know how to fight dirty, if you will, or to fight from a position of strength and leverage. Even when they were in control of all of Congress, they didn't seem to know how to use the leverage, how to take advantage of it. It's almost as though they didn't understand that this is a passing thing. You won't be in control of Congress for long. And they just didn't basically do what the Democrats do, which is to ram it down your throat and say, you know, tough, it sucks to be you. You know, we're in charge, we're going to do what we want to. I don't know that the Republicans know how to do that.
Well, I call that the Nixon disease. Remember, Nixon gave them the EPA and all the agencies they wanted, and gave them everything on their wish list, and they still hated his guts.
Well, I think that's a great point. First of all, you have to understand, you cannot make them like you. You cannot make them cooperate with you. You cannot make them in any way ever think that you are reasonable. So you simply must defeat them at every turn, and don't care what they say about you, and don't care that they don't like you, and don't care, you know, that they tell people that you're terrible. Do what you know needs to be done, and quit this stupid thing of trying to be friends with people that, well, you know, it's collegial and it's the sense of compromise. Bull. Win. That's all that matters, is winning. Period.
And they don't know how to do it, or they just don't care.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. Let's see. Benny's with us on line 1, Corpus Christi, Texas. Hey, Benny, you're on Gun Talk.
Well, hi, Tom. How are you, sir?
I am well. What's going on?
Well, I went to the store. Mm-hmm. Like a gentleman called earlier, Steve called in. He happened to go into a big box national chain. I did the same thing. But I was going in for just a box of 38 ammo. It didn't work out that way.
So what'd you end up coming out with?
Well, I ended up coming out with extra 13 boxes of Hornady's Frontier and 5.56, 68 grain boat tail hollow point match.
Yeah.
Apparently, somebody had opened a case, and these boxes were strewn along there with the packing tape still on them. So we asked the checker, you know, what would they take for them, and he let me have them at $5 a pop.
Oh, my heavens. You didn't need a gun to get that price, huh?
not even. No. Granted, it's here at the house. Yeah, I didn't have to take one with me.
$5 a box for 223 5.56 ammo. That's fabulous. It's part of that is being there. You got to go show up, and also being aware and being willing to, if you will, pull the trigger on a deal when it comes your way, because it could have been the next person along buys that stuff and you don't get it.
That's right. Well, thank you, Tom.
Absolutely. Well done, Betty. Appreciate that. Hey, Brent, Tommy, we're going to get to you. Don't go anywhere. Taking a quick break. If you'd like to join us, 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham.
Brownells has gone retro. Check out Brownells' new line of retro AR-15 and AR-style 308 rifles at brownells.com/retro. Whether you're looking for Eugene Stoner's original 308 design, the famous M16A1, Air Force 601, or the XM177 carbine, Brownells has the classic, new production, old-school rifle of your dreams. Own the firearm you used in basic training, carried in service, or that Grandpa always talks about. See more at brownells.com/retro.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
It's the next generation target pistol, the SW22 Victory from Smith & Wesson. Stainless steel frame, interchangeable match barrel, thumb safety, fiber optic sights, and a Picatinny rail. The SW22 Victory is ready for anything, targets or small game. Also available with a threaded barrel or cryptic camo finish. And it's backed by the Smith & Wesson Lifetime Service Policy. Learn more about the SW22 Victory at smith-wesson.com.
All right, back with the 866 Talk Gun. Let's go to Brent in Texas, line 2. Hey, Brent, you're on Gun Talk.
Hi, how you doing?
Well,
you mentioned the CDC, and there is a terrible irony here. Johns Hopkins University did a study about the medical profession, and their determination was that they are killing, through mistakes and errors, 250,000 people a year in the United States. Just a few more than all the gun deaths put together. And so it seems very, very ironical that the CDC should be studying the gun issue. It looks like they've got plenty on their plate to do with the medical profession.
Well, you got to remember, if you know the history of this, some years ago, Congress removed the funding from the CDC for them to do gun research, and they did it for only one reason, and that was because the guy who was heading up the research at CDC was making a speech, and he said, our goal at CDC is to make guns like cigarettes, dirty and banned. And Congress said, well, you know what, that's really not your job. So we're going to take that away from you. Well, the CDC has always had that underlying belief that they should do whatever they can to make guns banned. And so they're not going to go after the medical profession because they're all medical professionals. And so, but they think that their job is to make the world a better place, and you do that by getting rid of guns. It's part of that whole process. And I know you know what I'm talking about, where they only look at the misuse of guns and they don't see or recognize or even believe that it to be fact of the positive aspects of firearms ownership, of all the lives that are saved, the 2 million defensive gun uses a year in the U.S., a year. The people who, one of the parts that nobody ever talks about much is the peace of mind, the sense of security the mental well-being that comes from understanding that you can protect yourself and you're not vulnerable. And that's a mental health issue that almost no one looks into. I would love to see a research project on that. But, Brent, I don't think the CDC is ready for that, do you?
Oh, I don't think so. But, of course, we don't talk about banning doctors, nurses, and pharmacists because they save a whole lot more lives than they lose. Mm-hmm. So do guns.
Yes. Well, and all you can do, honestly, you and me and each of us, is continue to give that message out and just say, look, you do understand that guns are used to save far, far more lives than they're ever used to take. And, you got to pull the suicides out because we know that substitution takes place. And Japan has no guns, but they have twice the suicide rate that we do. So for those who say, well, houses with guns are more likely to have suicides, no, they're more likely to have gun suicides. And when you dig into their research, that's what it ends up saying is that houses without guns are less likely to have gun suicides. That's like saying highways that don't have any trucks on them are less likely to have truck accidents. You think? Hey, Brent, thank you for your call. I appreciate that. Tommy's on line 4 out of Bandon, Oregon. Hey, Tommy, you're on Gun Talk.
I had a couple of questions about the bump stock ban. Mm-hmm. That one would be first, but I was curious if that was something that was going to be run into effect and when, and if possibly it might be overturned.
Don't know. It is being the bump stock ban has been challenged. Is being challenged in court. We had one of the lawyers on a few weeks ago who's challenging it. His advice to anybody who has a bump stock is to do not do anything with it. Don't turn it in. Don't destroy it. Just wait, because he sounded really confident that they could get that order overturned. So if you have one, just sit on it. Don't do anything with it. Let's see how the whole court battle turns out, okay?
Right, and that's kind of my understanding, too. Just going to wait and see if something might be overturned because it's an accessory.
Right.
But, well, thank you. And my other question was, I'm not sure on how familiar you are with the Oregon laws, where you're based out of, but I was curious if you knew about any other details on the potential for the required background check in Oregon for buying ammunition. It's not in effect now, but I was curious if it's actually going to happen.
I would have to go do a quick check on that. I don't live in Oregon, so I don't know for sure where that is. So let me ask you, do you belong to any of the state firearms organizations in Oregon?
Just NRA.
Okay, then I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to start chastising everybody. You have to belong to your state group, not just the NRA, because the NRA doesn't do much on state level. In state level, that's where it's all happening these days. That's where the gun control is coming. You got to belong to your state groups, or whether it's Oregon Firearms or whoever it is. You got to find them. You got to join. You got to send them money. You got to get on the newsletter. You got to show up at the state capitol. That's where it's happening. And then belonging to the NRA is not enough. It never was, but it's really not enough these days. So I would encourage you to get involved with your state group. That's actually going to be the place where you go for finding out as much as you can about what's going on. So I wish you luck with that. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. We'll get you in here. Let's see here. Frank. Okay, I got Frank on line 3. I got 1 minute for you, Frank. Actually, less than a minute. Go, please. Go fast.
I got me an Echo 1 Sig Sauer thermal scope. You caused it when you had it on your guns and gear. Uh-huh. And I just got it. I'm putting it on my 300 blackout suppressed upper. And it's been cloudy and cold, so I hadn't had a thermal sight to line it up yet.
You're going to have fun with it. When you want to sight it in, use one of those chemical hand warmers and tape it onto a target, because through a true thermal scope, you can't see anything unless it's thermal. We use hand warmers as a way to sight in. I've also heard of people using like a blowtorch and heating up a quarter and taping it onto a cardboard target and using that for sighting in. You're going to love that thing. Man, thermal is like a game changer. Once you start shooting that, it is a hoot and a half. 866-TALK-GUN is our magic number here. If you've got a quick range report, by all means, give us a holler. Let's see. Bruce, don't go anywhere. Ray, don't go anywhere. We do have room for you. And don't forget, follow me on Twitter. I am at Gun Talk, and check out the Gun Talk Media Facebook page. tons of information and videos there all the time. I know we've been talking about gun rights a lot, and that's important. Next 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about guns and guns and guns and guns and guns. 2 shows from the SHOT Show. It's going to be a lot of stuff going on. By the way, I mentioned the Gun Talk Facebook page. Be sure to check that out because we are going to be doing several live videos from the SHOT Show every day. So as news breaks, as things are happening, we're going to be grabbing people and interviewing them. And you'll get notified as if you like and follow us over on Facebook. Look for Gun Talk Media over there, Gun Talk Media. Okay? Oh, yeah, and absolutely follow me on Twitter. I am at Gun Talk. Let's see here. Ben is with, not Ben. What am I looking at? Bruce is on line 1 out of Georgia. I'm sorry. Let's go to Ray on line 2. Ray, how you doing, sir?
Hello. Nice to talk to you. I got a question about the training.
Okay.
I'm all for the Second Amendment. I like guns and all that stuff.
All right, don't start, please. I'm just going to stop you. Don't say I'm all for the Second Amendment, but, because the minute you say but, it means you're not for the Second Amendment.
No, I am. I have a worry though.
Okay.
I think we'll both agree that both good guys and bad guys buy guns or use guns or whatever, but I think your training courses and all that are great for protection, using guns as protection. My problem is, what if the bad guy takes that same training, wouldn't that be a problem?
Well, I guess the question is, how would you stop a bad guy from getting training? You can't. Actually, the truth of it is, there's nothing you could do to stop a bad guy from doing anything. He could get training. He can read books. He can look at online videos. Generally speaking, they don't, and there's a good reason. It's because it requires effort, and they tend to be lazy. They tend to be opportunists. Now, that's not to say it doesn't happen. It most certainly does. The famous FBI shootout, Maddox and Platt were very good. They were actually probably as well or better trained than the FBI guys. But again, that was 2 decades or 3 decades ago. It happens, but it's really not a concern. And most of the people who do good training also screen their students. But I appreciate it. It's an interesting concern. Line 4, Wallace is out of Midland, Texas. Wallace, I got about a minute, so go for it.
Okay, real quick. I'm actively involved in the state of Texas. I'm a board member for the Texas Concealed Handgun Association.
Mm-hmm.
I started a Facebook page. It's called Armed Citizens Fighting Back. I post true stories every day of citizens fighting back. I just love your show. It's the first time I've ever called in.
Armed Citizens Fighting Back, and that's the Facebook page?
Yes, sir. And can I give you our association website?
Yeah, do it.
It's txcha.org. We have a conference coming up the end of March, training conference. It's an outstanding training conference. I'm sure you're familiar with John Correa and his YouTube page.
I am. Let me do this because I'm flat out of time. I want to give out your website again. It's TX as in Texas, CHA.org. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. End of March, we have a conference.
Good deal. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to take a look at your your Facebook page. I love it. Yeah, people don't understand how many self-defense gun uses there are, how many people save their lives. Just like this woman in Chicago who was attacked last week. She shot and killed her attacker. Excellent. That'll work for me. All right, don't go far. If you can, join us right now. Call us 866-TALK-GUN. You can be a part of the after show. By all means, be sure to listen to the after show. That's available only through podcast. In the meantime, saddle up because next week and the next, we're going to be from the SHOT Show with all sorts of news. Follow us on Facebook. You'll be getting those daily alerts. You'll see videos of what's going on there. In the meantime, be careful and now check your six.